16 minutes till the top of the hour. It's Cowboy State Daily Show with Jake. Jeff hanging out with you here in Sheridan, Wyoming. Send us a text, 307-620-8866. This guy doesn't need an introduction. The governor of the best state in the nation, the second most popular governor in the country, and he's ours. Governor Mark Gordon. Thanks so much for coming on the show this morning, Governor.
Good morning. Good to see you, Jeff. How are you this morning?
Oh, not too bad. I just got my brain melted down from this Wyoming stable token. We just had Stephanie Chen on the show. Obviously something you back. Tell us your thoughts on this stable token, Governor.
Well, I got to say, I think it's a tool that we can use for our local banks as they kind of start to compete with the larger banks around the country. That has been the big thing for me, but it's also an incredible tool that we'll use here in Wyoming. We're setting it up and we're trying to make sure that it's done right. Of course, it just launched a little bit ago. It took a little bit of time to get it done. But we wanted to make sure, everybody was telling us, oh, you can become billionaires and all that sort of stuff. We weren't interested in that. We just were interested in a tool that was useful, that would come into play for small banks and credit unions. That would be something that people could adopt. It's going to take a little time to adopt it because it's not a speculatory type of investment. It is simply a means of being able to, pay. Is basically what it is.
Yeah. A different digital representation is what we got out of it from Stephanie. But boy, what a weekend you had. A couple different military veteran events. I mean, some events that you go to probably have to, hit your heart a little more than others. Seeing these vets that we're not getting any younger. I mean, this had to be a special weekend for you.
Yeah, no, it really was. A dear friend of mine, former senator, grew up with him, John Schiffer, served as a river rat during during Vietnam. And John came back, and he'd volunteered, went there. People said, "Oh, you were in the Navy." Well, those guys in the river boats really took a lot more than anybody. Yeah. That was a crazy mission. He came back and really struggled a little bit with PTSD and other things, but he always felt very strongly. And he put it to me, when you were over there, yeah, it was great to be there for your country and everything else, but the person you cared about was your buddy, and you needed to make sure your buddy made it home. And so being able to say, "Welcome home." Being able to be there for so many of the veterans that were there to not only tell them thank you, but also to step up in our efforts for support during mental health, to step up in our efforts to make sure that community can come together was wonderful. Laramie was great, but Dan Starks and that military museum, just an impressive deal. And to have that room filled, I think I saw you there, didn't I?
No, I wish I would have been there, but it looked like an amazing event. Well, and you said it, Dan Starks in this military museum. How did you walk through the Vietnam display?
Oh, I've been through it a couple of times before. My cousin and my great uncle. My great uncle was George Patton. His son actually served in Vietnam, in Korea, and in World War II. So Dan and I had a really good conversation. It's fascinating how much that man knows about military history. I had another cousin, John Waters, who got captured at the beginning of World War II and spent his entire time during World War II in a prisoner of war camp. And Dan knew about that, knew about the battle, knew about the tanks, because he's a tanker from way back, just a love of him. He knew all about those aspects. So his love and passion for the military is huge. But I think more importantly, and if you go through that museum, if you've had a chance, his point is just the evolution of history and how important it is that America not be isolationist. Because every time we get isolationist, the world kind of blows up, and then we're tasked with trying to figure out how to deal with it. So
Yeah.
he's very supportive of veterans. He's very supportive of Wyoming. And I think he's very supportive of the history that makes the most important contributions to our story.
Yeah, I mean, there's little old Wyoming. You mentioned John Schiffer, Kelly McBride. He was on the beaches of Normandy. I mean, both of them
You
passed
bet.
away. I mean, Kelly's brother Bob was a prisoner of war in World War II. I mean,
Yeah.
there's a lot of stories out of Wyoming. I mean, a lot of them are gone, but yeah, it's just amazing.
Well, and one of the things that was cool there is that, and I think at PBS is coming out with it, is the story for Lee Alley,
Yeah,
who, yeah, just an amazing man.
that unbelievable story. Did you get to watch the PBS documentary?
I haven't yet. I look forward to. I know Lee. I've known him for a long time, and it's been little bits and pieces that have come out of that story.
Yeah, we've talked about him a couple times this week, and just unreal. It's incredible. I can't wait to see that too. But you've got a big day ahead of you, Governor. You're heading to Jackson today. Huge tech meeting here going on. What's happening?
Well, I think it's a gathering of a number of data center proponents, and I think some others that really are talking about how we power that. For me, Jeff, let me just put it this way. I think Wyoming has a unique opportunity here to be able to both generate, because we have tons of sources of energy, be able to use that energy here in Wyoming. And I'll get to the reason why I think that's so important. And to be able to be in front of the development of these data centers. They're going on all over the country.
Yeah.
If they want to come here, and we have some real advantages, the energy I talked about, but the fact that we're high and dry also helps to keep things cool. But we want to make sure that they don't affect our ratepayers' rates. We want to make sure that we don't use water if at all possible. There's some bathrooms and things like that that might have to get used. But in terms of cooling them, what's the technology that we can bring to make sure that we aren't wasting water in some way? So those two things, I think, and just the siting and being able to understand what the implications are, I think are all important. Here are the advantages that I'm really looking forward to being able to talk to these folks tonight about. Data centers have an enormous amount of demand for electricity. And some of those data centers are very anxious to try to figure out how they can generate their own electricity, whether it be small modular nuclears like we've got going down around Kemmerer, whether it be coal, whether it be natural gas. All of these things are resources that we have. Being able to use that in Wyoming makes us able to set ourselves up a little more like an island, so we don't have to deal with the Federal Energy Regulatory Commission, FERC, or any of those others. We can set the parameters to be able to generate and to use the electricity here in Wyoming. And as I say, making sure that it doesn't affect our ratepayers. It may actually reduce the rates on them, and then also not using our water. So trying to figure out how to do that right, I think is really what we've been working on for a little bit.
Yeah, well, and I saw somebody said we ship all of our energy out of the state. Let's keep it in the state, and hey, like you said, the costs probably go down. And it's right here. We're sitting on a gold mine. I love it though. You're always an advocate for Wyoming's energy industry, innovation, our natural resources. You're always keeping an eye on it, because I saw somebody had a comment. Well, they're going to come in. They're going to ruin our water and have AI dust, and it's like, no. Governor
Right.
Gordon is making sure this is not going to happen.
Well, and Related Digital, which is a new data center down here, a new AI data center down here in Cheyenne, they're not going to use any water. The reason I said that they have like 6 bathrooms in the
Yeah.
facility, but no water for cooling, and that's one of the big draws and drawbacks on some of these data centers elsewhere. And of course, here in the West, in a year that we have drought, it's really particularly important that we think about that. Here's the other thing that I think appeals should appeal to people in Wyoming. Data centers don't hire that many people. There's a lot of construction folks, but otherwise, it's very high-paying jobs. There's a pretty good workforce, but we're not talking about having hundreds of thousands of people move to Wyoming. And if you're from Wyoming, you love hunting here or hiking here or fishing here. One of the nicest things is you don't have crowds.
Yeah.
So you're going to have people that have good paying jobs. And we've got a school system that really pushes computer science and all of those things. So our kids can stay here and at the same time, we're really talking about good paying jobs with a workforce that is already here, so we can build right into it.
Yeah, and here we go again. Not surprisingly, rather than understanding the positive aspects of these data centers for our economy, if done right, done the Wyoming way, Club No is on another rant here, Governor.
Yeah, I heard that, and of course, that's simple. It's easy to say no to everything, but it's a little hard when you don't have any money to make your roads right, to make sure that things work. So you got to have some vision. And this state, this, Jeff, this state was built with people that had vision,
Yeah.
not people that came here and said, "I'm going to pull up the drawbridge and no." And I think we're at an inflection point in so many respects, and being able to once again, we did this during the 70s, we did this during the 80s, where we were able to kind of set our parameters on how development's going to happen in Wyoming. That's going to be an enormous opportunity for us, and I hope we don't miss it.
Yeah. Well, as a citizen, I loved it at the end of the session, Governor. You took matters into your own hands. You went, yep. You went, nope. You went, yep. You're like, I'm going to do what's best for the state. I'm not running again. I don't care. Thank you, Governor. I appreciate that.
Well, I appreciate that, Jeff. Right now, politically in the country, I think we need to have people more willing to step up.
Yeah.
I never wanted to do this job, and I certainly never wanted to do it forever. What I wanted to do is do the right thing by my neighbors, by the people in this state. I love this state. The opportunity to serve it has been extraordinary. But I think you got to have integrity. That's what Al Simpson used to talk about. If you don't have integrity, nothing else matters. If you do have integrity, nothing else matters. And I think that's really key.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, last term, last year, is the weight a little off your shoulders? Can we relax at all?
Well, we're going to run through the tape. I mean, we talked about these data centers. We've got that to deal with. We've got the grizzly bear delisting that we're really working hard to get across the finish line. There's a ton of stuff going on this summer in the America 250. We've got some opportunities here with the reorganization of the Forest Service to be able to really talk about managing our forests better. So I don't think this is a time that you just sit back and relax. And we're just going to push as hard as we can all the way through. And I really think that that's the tradition that leaders in Wyoming have always demonstrated. And I think it's what the voters expect.
Yeah, we got about a minute to go here. You just kind of touched on it, the relocation of the USDA to Salt Lake City. And Cheyenne's going to have a regional office.
Yeah, we're going to have North Dakota, South Dakota, and Wyoming and Nebraska under our area, and that's good because we've been working a lot with South Dakota and Nebraska over the last couple of years, particularly when it comes to the Black Hills forests, where we've got some mills and we're trying to make sure those jobs stay in place. I've always been a supporter of getting these agencies out of DC, getting them back out where they're supposed to be
Yeah.
managing things. We had the Bureau of Land Management a few years ago move out, and I think that was a good move. Unfortunately, they've gone back to DC. But in this case, where America's first forest was right here in Wyoming. And it only makes sense to be able to bring the agency closer to here. We'll see how it all plays out. There's a lot of things that are at stake, but it does give us the chance to be able to, we're two regions now, and we'll be able to manage that all as an entire state, and we do a really good job at that.
Yeah, Governor Mark Gordon, he's heading to Jackson. Good luck to you. Before I let you go, Governor, when you go to the Dash-In, what do we eat? What's our favorite item at the Dash-In?
It used to be a dash burger with everything old style. But now I think it's probably the 2 or 3 piece chicken dinner. So how about you? How about you?
I'm a chicken guy. Yeah, I'm a chicken guy. So I agree with you. Yeah. And soft shell tacos, but yeah.
Yeah, and the ribs.
And the ribs, yeah, everything. Well, Governor Gordon, thanks so much. Appreciate your time today.
Thank you.